Hello everyone, this is Gene and I'm back with another video, the second video of the day today, I think. I've been making so many videos recently, I honestly forget at times where I am, but it's just before 2 o'clock here on Friday in New York City, so I thought I would just pop in real quick with a second video, especially since doing videos like this means I don't have to do a lot of editing. Yes! I love doing those little short clip videos, but my god, those actually take hours. For the lack of length in the actual finished product, making those videos actually takes hours because I have to make each slide and then resize it, find the images, resize those, do the music stuff about 4 times over because my computer's always screwing me over right when I get to the part that I'm trying to capture in the recording. So I put a lot of work into those, but thank you all so much. My subscriber count is steadily climbing, which is very what's what I'm looking for. It's very humbling, but it also is also very encouraging, right? I honestly didn't think I would ever have an audience beyond maybe like 50 people at that, but you guys are finding me, you guys are responding, so thank you so much. And whether this is your first video or your 100th, I hope that you continue to enjoy the content. So what I'm going to be covering, hopefully briefly, we all know that when I say brief, it usually goes on for about 20 minutes or more, but I wanted to cover briefly, this isn't really a critique, it's just more of me being curious, because I don't understand how this idea is going to work. So here's the thing. I came across this video, sorry for the shaky cam, I came across this video from Mecha Random 42, where she talks briefly about this book series called Crave, that's written by Tracy Wolff, who is a New York Times best-selling author. Apparently she's written like 60-some novels. But apparently, according to this Pop Buzz article, which I originally found in Mecha's video and then looked up on my own, apparently Universal Studios has bought the rights to adapt Tracy Wolff's novel Crave into a movie. Now, of course, them buying the rights doesn't really mean much of anything, right? Just because they bought the rights doesn't mean they're actually going to do anything with it, especially given that no doubt this was done before the big bad coronavirus. But what I'm wondering is this, because here's the thing. There's also another article from the Hollywood Reporter, and it says this, because I'm wondering how in this landscape, assuming that Hollywood still exists by the time the coronavirus is over, I'm really wondering how this type of work, a vampire romance fiction type thing, is going to work in this day and age. So here's the thing. So it says here that, as I mentioned, Universal Studios has picked up the film rights to Crave, an upcoming YA vampire novel from author Tracy Wolff. Now, it says here from the Hollywood Reporter, it reads, Entangled Publishing's Liz Pelletier described the vision for Crave, which was pitched as Vampires for a New Generation, as a paranormal fantasy about a human girl who finds herself at the center of conflict between many warring factions when she falls for a vampire prince, all told with a decidedly feminist perspective. Here's the first thing. What, pray tell, is decidedly feminist about this plot idea of her being caught in a conflict of warring factions when she falls for a vampire prince? That is romance novel 101. That's been done 100 times over. That's Beauty and the Beast. That's Twilight. That's even 50 Shades of Grey. Right? It's a common female fantasy that you'll often see in romance novels, especially. Sometimes YA. But to be fair, I don't read a lot of YA. But I have read a romance novel or two in my life. But common, especially in adult, erotic romance novels written by women for women, is the idea of the plain, normal girl falling in love with the powerful, rich man, whether he's a businessman or whether he's a literal prince or whether he's in a rock band, whatever it is, right? Typically, she's normal. He is, you know, he's what's what I'm looking for? You know, he's the powerful man with all the resources, right? And he ends up falling desperately in love with her, and they go through drama and back and forth and their sex, and then they get together happily ever after, right? So how is this new? And how do you write this from a feminist perspective? Now, I understand that feminism is not a monolith and that there's many different schools of thought and many different types of feminists, but wouldn't this be the type of thing that most feminists would sort of rail against, that they would say is decidedly not feminist? I mean, I even looked up the book on Amazon.com, and it says this. This is the description given for the first. It's the first of at least 2 books. First one is called Crave, and the second one is Crush. But anyway, it says here, this is the description. And it says, "My whole world changed when I stepped inside the academy. Nothing is right about this place or the other students in it. Here I am, a mere mortal among gods, or monsters. I still can't decide which of these warring factions I belong to, if I belong at all. I only know the one thing that unites them is their hatred of me." Then there's Jackson, spelled Jaxon. Then there's Jackson Vega, a vampire with deadly secrets who hasn't felt anything for 100 years. But there's something about him that calls to me. Something broken in him that somehow fits with what's broken in me, which could spell death for us all. Because Jackson walled himself off for a reason. And now someone wants to wake a sleeping monster. And I'm wondering if I was brought here intentionally, as the bait. Sounds like every romance story ever. Or every young YA romance ever. So I really don't see, at least by its description, to be fair, I haven't read it, so I can't evaluate it as a book, and I don't see myself reading it. But at least from what I can find of its description, right? How is this different than anything else that has come before it? And how is this supposedly a decidedly feminist perspective? To my understanding, this would be the type of thing that feminists would sort of rail against. And I found a few reviews here, or at least editorial, for whatever that's worth, reviews here. And it says, "Crave is about to become fandom's new favorite vampire romance obsession, hypeable. Tracy Wolff is a superb writer who brings gripping tension, teaming with a blend of action and teen angst." That comes from Christine Fanon, and she herself is a New York Times bestseller. "If you love brooding vampires, tons of action, and epic romance, you will love Crave." This is from Kay at Mama Bear Reads, an influencer. "This book is a definition of guilty pleasure. Make no apologizes reading." This is from the Literary Llama. It was an influencer, so I'm guessing there's some sort of internet personality. "Crave sucked me into its dangerous but oh so delicious world. Suffice it to say, I have a new book boyfriend, Pintip Dunn, who is a best-selling author of Malice. Filled with danger, humor, and heart, Crave proves vampires are definitely back." From another New York Times best-selling author, Jay Kenner. And then it says that intricately crafted, deeply romantic, and with an ending that blew me away. From Victoria Scott, who is the author of the Fire and Flood series. And many, many, many more, basically from her contemporaries. So again, where is this all that different than Twilight or any other vampire, teen angst, high school drama, supernatural thing that has come before it? I don't see the feminism here. Maybe I'm just blind to it because I am not a feminist, but I really don't see the feminism here. Or maybe it's in the book itself. I don't know. Again, to be fair, I haven't read it. So here's my first question. The first question is, how is this different and where's the feminist twist? And two, let's say for a moment it does have a decidedly feminist twist. How are they even going to put this on in theaters? Or I guess these days on streaming, given the state of Hollywood. Even if they actually do get to the filming stage, right? Because here's the thing about vampires, right? The vampire myth and the vampire character is steeped in sex. They're supposed to be sinful and therefore tempting. And then there has to be this dark allure. And one of the ways they do that is through sex appeal. That has always been a strong part of the vampire myth. And especially in its more modern day depictions, whether you're looking at Interview with a Vampire, whether you're looking at Queen of the Damned, whether you're looking at the vampires in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, whether you're looking at Castlevania, or Hellsing, or Vamp from Metal Gear Solid 2, or even Twilight. Sex in some fashion. Sometimes it's played up, sometimes it's not so overt, depending on the work overall. But sex is always a part of these characters. They always have this dark sexual allure. So how are you going to have a teen vampire romance angst thing going on, where at least the male character has to have this dark sexual appeal, where we're in a no fun, sex negative entertainment industry that wants to de-sex everything, right? How does this work? Especially since, and maybe I'm just speaking from my own perspective as a heterosexual woman, but one of the appealing elements of male sexuality, at least to me, is the idea of a man being strong and dominant, right? Sort of taking control of the situation. I'm not saying force, and I'm not saying domineering, but there is a allure of a man who is strong and assertive in certain ways. So given that the way most male characters these days in media are depicted as being decidedly, I guess you would say, tame is the best way that I can put it. How does this work? Because a vampire character cannot be tamed, at least not in this sense, right? Like, let's use an example, although it's not a perfect one. James Bond, right? What a lot of women, at least from what I know, find sexy about James Bond is that he's a man's man, right? He dresses well, but, you know, he is smart and intelligent and sexy, and he's sure of himself, and what's what I'm looking for? He's not tame, right? It's hard to put into words, but the best way I could say is that he is not a tame character. He's strong, and that strength exudes from him in the way he talks, in the way he moves, in the way he dresses. Right? And at least in my experience, a lot of heterosexual women are drawn to that. There's a certain strength that a man exudes that is appealing. And when the common, at least in these days, depiction of men who are supposed to be powerful, right? Like the hero of the story, or James Bond, or a vampire, when they don't allow them to display that power, and when they defang or de-sex or otherwise make these characters tame and timid, well, you're killing the sex appeal of the character. And for the male lead, he has to have that sex appeal because he's the vampire. And that's always been part of vampire lore. They're sexy. So how does this work? How does this work in a sex negative sex negative environment in entertainment where the men are defanged and desexed and made to be tame. They're always under a woman's thumb, if not literally under her heel. And the female characters are, instead of being, you know, women who are strong and assertive and secure in their own femininity and the strength and the allure of that femininity, they are instead desexed themselves and then masculinized, and then given oftentimes these overly aggressive, caricature, masculine personalities. So how's this going to work? I just don't get it. I mean, if they want to try, up to them. I'm certainly not going to hate on the woman for getting a potential movie deal. Good on her. But I'm just wondering how they can try to adapt something that is kind of rooted in masculine energy and masculine sexuality and women being drawn to that when they don't allow men in media today to strut their stuff, as it were, and be men and let them have that oh, Lord forgive me, but it's the only way I can describe it. That big dick energy. I can't believe I just said that. But anyway, I'm just wondering how this is going to work. It's basically it. How is this feminist, and how are you going to turn this into a movie in a sex-negative entertainment industry? I mean, Interview with the Vampire worked because it allowed the vampires to be sexy. And it had very adult scenes. Even Twilight had Bella and Edward breaking the bed. So I'm just wondering how this is going to work. I'm just confused. But hey, it's their call. So anyway, that's the video. I'm terribly embarrassed. And I will see you all in the next one. Have a good day or night wherever you are, and I will see you around. Bye.